I know there's a God because he has touched my life in every way, and he has shown me mercy and love and compassion beyond all measures.
I do believe there's a God because I believe that not everything is just happened by accident. I think God plans things to happen, and everything's planned out in a master plan that he has for us.
Oh yes, definitely. I'm a born-again Christian, and because he created this world.
I do believe that there is God.
Yes, there's a God. Of course.
No,
Why not?
because I believe in reincarnation.
I think so, God.
I do believe there is a God, mainly because of, all this belief structure. I mean, I would definitely love to pledge my soul to the Lord to get into a better place than this, because no way would I want to stay here.
I guess that I believe there is a God. I don't know why. Just something to believe in, I guess.
I believe there's a God because my religion, I guess.
Yeah.
Christianity.
Yeah, because I go to CCD.
I believe it because that's my religion.
I'd say there is just because that's like my faith, but I haven't ever really had any occurrences that would make me really like believe in it.
I'm not really that religious, but I believe there's a God.
I don't know. I have to say I question it all the time, and I'm not really sure.
I believe there's a God. I don't know why. I guess I was just raised to believe in God.
I do, because there's some things that can't be explained. So that's like God. Come on now.
I do too, because I mean, there's miracles and stuff.
Yeah, I do, because there's just like a lot of things that can't be explained, and I mean, that could be like the one thing that you turn to, and there are a lot of things, like good things that happen that you could say that he did for you.
I believe there is a God, because without God, we wouldn't be here today.
At some point in life, most people question the existence of God.
For some, it's a normal part of the growing up process.
As we mature, we examine the basic beliefs of our parents and our society.
It's part of the work of finding out who we are and what we believe.
Teens often explore what others believe about God and ask themselves if they really believe it too.
Do you believe in God?
Has there ever been a time in your life when you didn't believe in God or when you questioned if he really exists?
Is there a God? How do we know? That's what we'll be talking about today. Hi everyone, I'm Jack.
And I'm Beth.
And this is Real Faith TV. Most of the teens we interviewed at the start of our program said they believe in God.
There were a few, though, who weren't sure.
We'll hear more from the teens on the street and also talk with our studio guests on the topic.
But first, let's meet Andrew, our spotlight guest. Andrew went through a difficult period in his life when he didn't believe in God.
Let's hear his story now.
Well, this goes back when my freshman year when I was an atheist. There's a lot of things going on in my life. I was really feeling down about everything, and the biggest thing was my adoption. And when you're adopted, you're a little kid. Most people are actually like infants when they're adopted. But I was 3 years old, and it really felt that those 3 years my mom had kept me, and then she decided to give me up. And it really does hurt you because they're your original parents. You really want to get to know who they are, but you can't because they live overseas in Korea. So I really started to get down about that, and it really bothered me. And when something bothers you a lot, you tend to think, well, who can I blame? And sometimes people blame themselves, they blame other people. But since not my birth parents, but my parents now, since their biggest thing was God and their rock, I chose to do that because it just seemed logical for me to separate from them and to find out who I really was. So then I became an atheist, and I really didn't want to go to church. I wanted to explore actually, just being on my own, kind of, just having that freedom, but my parents still made me go to church. When I became an atheist, I started to feel very much alone, and I couldn't pinpoint what it was. And first I thought, well, I don't have a girlfriend, whatever. But I realized that even if I did have a girlfriend, I'd still feel alone. And I'd hang out with girls constantly, and I'd still come back and sit in my bed late at night and thinking, I don't feel right. Something's missing in my life. I had sat down and had to talk with my friend Edgar, and we talked about my adoption, and I basically told everything that I'm telling you right now. And he sat there and he gave me advice, and he said, well, said, you probably do need God in your life. He said, don't blame God. And that just began to stir up my emotions a little bit. And I was feeling, sad, a little bit angry, and I didn't know what to do. And by that point, after I talked to Edgar, I had become an agnostic because I said, maybe there is a God. Maybe, because I had thought before, well, if there is a God, why does so many bad things happen to me?
I think it's really good that he decided to talk to his friend because that obviously helped him to find God in his life personally. But let's meet our guests and find out what they think about all of this.
Okay, they are Katie, Ross, Zoe, Anthony, Matt, and Catherine.
So obviously all you guys believe in God, otherwise you wouldn't be here on the show. But was there ever a time in your lives where you guys questioned the existence of God, even if it was just for a brief time?
Well, like in 7th grade, that was the time when I was going through my rediscovery period, forming my own opinions for myself. And at that point, there's what your parents tell you and why do you believe that? So I was going through a real hard time in my life too, everything was going crazy. It was the worst year of my life at this point. So I almost fell into this deep pit, and it was all dark and I couldn't see anything, and it was there's no God. And then I just talked it over my head, and when I looked at it and looked at all the different things, I kind of almost saw light, and I recognized that to be God. And the more I try to learn about God, through Aquinas and different types of things, the more I recognize him to be the true person he is, and to the point where we are now, me and God are best buds, type of thing. So
Well, after my brother and I lost our father on 9/11, I didn't necessarily question God, but it made me really think, what is his part in all this, and how does he work into everything? I'm just realizing that God really does work in mysterious ways.
Yeah, it's good that you managed to work through that hard time and not lose your faith in God. That must have been hard. I think it's normal for teens to start questioning God. They start forming their own beliefs, become their own person, separating from their parents and what their parents taught them. And I just think it's normal, everybody starts a little bit questioning God.
I am the youngest of 5, and my parents have always been involved in the charismatic renewal. And so I felt as a child kind of that I was having my faith shoved down my throat. And none of my siblings are still in the church. They don't come to Mass with us. They don't even go to holiday Masses with us. But I guess they're agnostic. But for a while, I was having a period where I was just well, I'm doing this for my parents because I don't want to let my parents down because I'm the last resort. But then I started to have my own spiritual experiences, and I realized that God was really for me. I wasn't doing it just for my parents, so that was good.
I don't know. I never really questioned my belief in God. I think it has to do a lot with growing up. My parents took me to church, and not only my parents, but my cousins, my aunts, my uncles, they were all Catholics. Believed in God, all went to church, and so when I was younger, I don't know, I maybe viewed church as, going to church, I can't play with my Ninja Turtles, But then when I got home and I was playing with the, my Ninja Turtles, but then a couple years would pass, and all my friends, even if they, Jewish, whatnot, Christian, they all believed in God. So it was never really a question of is there a God? It was just kind of everybody believes in God. So it kind of made me, I guess, believe in God a little bit. So, and now, I believe in God more, and it's a part of my life. I don't think there's ever really a point where I question that.
I think some people start to question because, they're growing up and you want to discover things on your own beyond just what your parents tell you or have always told you is true. But I think for me, a lot of people go through and they finish their initiation into the church and they do confirmation, and then that's when a lot of teens stop going because they consider themselves done or whatever. But for my confirmation, something that they do at my church is your family, whoever your parents contact or whatever, they write you letters, and they're letters to you, and they're usually, about God and faith. And I think it was for reading those letters from my parents and from my brother, on my confirmation that really showed me how God was real and how he's touched their lives and really made it true to me. I mean, I'd always believed, but that was what made it so real, was hearing for the first time, not just the scripture and the rules and whatnot, but how God has really touched these people's lives. And then through that and my belief, now I've been able to have those kinds of experiences myself.
Yeah, my confirmation was like this great moment because like at my confirmation, I started like bawling out crying because I just felt this great presence, like, and it just like hugged me. And I had been having such a bad time before that spiritual embrace was what I really needed.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Questioning the existence of God might be tied to a traumatic loss or tragic situation.
This kind of conflict leads a person to reassess the very assumptions at the root of everything else they believe.
Like Andrew, you ask, if there is a God, how could he let this happen to me?
Or you might think, because this happened, there must not be a God.
The flip side of this is to know the presence of God because you actually felt it.
Let's go back to the teens at the Sony Lowe's movie theater in Freehold and find out if they have ever had a spiritual experience where they felt the presence of God.
I go to church, and I went on a retreat one time, and God really spoke to me, and I've been on missions trip before, and he's really just been an amazing part of my life.
Well, when she had her bat mitzvah, didn't you feel God when you had your bat mitzvah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Confirmation.
At church. I'd have to say when my aunt died, and when she passed, it was really hard for me because I was really close to her. But that night I had a dream, and I felt that it really worked on me, and like it comforted me that I know that she was in a better place.
God's all around me. I can feel it.
Well, my brother's best friend was in a car accident and his car flipped over and he did not get a scratch on his head, so I think that's pretty cool. And he goes to church every weekend.
When I saw the Passion of Christ.
My mom was really sick with seizures one time. I just remember God helped.
We were having a vacation in Virginia, and we were hiking, and we went to go see this waterfall, and we had lots of delays. We had a family argument. We had sick from the food that we ate in the morning, and we took a break. You know, we thought this was a complete disaster, but you know, due to this delay, if it wasn't for this, we would have never found this man who almost broke his leg on the waterfall.
Oh, that's really nice. So you feel that God made you wait to see the waterfall to help this man?
That is definitely correct.
I like that one kid who talked about the dream and how he saw his, I think it was his aunt, in a better place. I think it's pretty amazing when God speaks to us through things like that and through prayer. I think it's cool that some of the teens are experiencing him that way. God's existence can be detected in nature and in the beauty of creation.
People experience the touch of God through other people.
We also come to know God by his mighty deeds and his quiet miracles.
And often it's through the witness and testimony of others that we come to know of God's existence.
Next, Andrew gives us his testimony about a powerful spiritual experience which made him believe beyond a shadow of a doubt.
I went on this retreat, and I remember I sat next to this cross, and I prayed at night, and it was our free time, so we could do whatever we wanted. And I sat and I prayed, and I asked God to tell me what I needed to do in order to be in a good grace, because I had become really depressed. And I sat there and I prayed, and I said, if you really do exist, make me an instrument of your peace. Help me to understand why these things happen to me. And I did so, and I sat there, and I remember I closed my eyes, and I opened them, and I really wasn't there. It wasn't me just praying by a cross. It didn't feel like I was on the grass anymore either. I just felt like I was in a different place, and it really just changed who I am. It's something that I can't show you, because if I could show you, you would probably instantly believe in God, and you would probably want to go to church, and it's something that only God can show you. And I remember I kept on praying, and as I was praying, I was realizing that what I was saying wasn't just me saying the words anymore, and it was just someone saying it through me. And I was at the most calm and peace I've ever felt in my life. I remember I opened my eyes Like I opened them and closed them, and then I opened again, and I was sitting next to the cross. And I got up, and I just felt like everything that I'd gone through, I understood, and it was okay. My life is completely different. It is just, I feel good to be here. I feel good to be anywhere. I feel like nothing can bother me. Absolutely nothing can bother me. I mean, I was in a car accident a while back, actually 2 months ago, and aside from the fact that I was like, oh no, my parents, the car, it just felt that I was protected. I just felt that no matter what happens to me, my faith is going to survive. And if that's the only thing that survives, then I'm fine. Then my life has been complete.
Wow, that's really powerful. He just asked God to help him, and God helped him out and showed him that stuff, and it really just turned his life around. Have any of you had a spiritual experience where you felt the presence of God?
4 years ago, I went to my first conference. It was a youth track, and they had Eucharistic adoration, and I would have to say that was the first time I really felt the presence of God. We were all in this tiny, tiny room with the monstrance, and we're praying, and there's people tearing up, there's people praying in tongues, and people just praying with each other, and there was some healing going on, and it was just such a flood of a peace and a calm and a quiet, and it was probably the first time that I'd really said, okay, I believe in God, okay, you win. And most recently, I went to another conference a few weeks back, and there was this place called the Holy Stairs, and this is one of the many places that you would make a pilgrimage to climb up the stairs on your knees and say a prayer at each step. And so I did that with a friend, and it was just totally awesome. I think we made about 30 steps before we were just like, okay, my knees, just not making it. But it was connecting. Like I was praying, and you were supposed to be reflecting on the crucifixion and kind of sharing a bit of the load, and you could feel it in your whole body because you were climbing up these stairs on your knees and you're just aching all over, but you're like, okay, God, just help me, I just want to praise you. And it was just fabulous, and those are two of my favorite experiences.
Wow, that's powerful. Yeah. I have 3 little brothers and a little sister, and just every time one of them was born, I saw the little baby in the hospital, that was the presence of God to me, this new life, and that was just amazing for me.
I hate to bring up the subject of 9/11 again, but seeing all those people help out at Ground Zero, it just shows you that God's will is being shown through people. Because it doesn't matter if your enemies are there or if, the people who were helping out, they had no relation to each other. You couldn't, even if you speak a different language, it doesn't matter. There's always one language, and that's kindness, and that's people helping out at Ground Zero.
Yeah, there was this one time where, God works through people. God kept on telling me to go talk to this one girl. She was having some trouble with her boyfriend and stuff, and I wanted to give her some support group numbers. And, but I was afraid to talk to her because she was a friend's friend. I didn't know her that well. I thought it was kind of presumptuous. But every time I talked to people, or these words would just pop out at me. And it was like God saying, go and talk to her. You know what? Go talk to her. So finally, I'm like, okay, God, you win. And I went up and I talked to her, and she felt so relieved that someone, would actually care about her instead of, just following the gossip chain, type of thing. It was like, oh, you really care about me. And it was it was really I felt that I really felt God's presence there, that he had really worked through me, and it was really cool. I actually got a thank you letter from him. It wasn't really from him. I had started cantering, and I got this letter in the mail, and it was this lady who had heard me canter. But when I got it, it was the day that I talked to the girl, and I looked at it, I'm like, is God thanking me? And then I looked at the bottom, like, oh, okay. But for a minute there, I was like, God, did you use the post service now? But yeah, no, it was cool. God works in mysterious ways.
I think I had a pretty unique spiritual experience. A couple years ago, a good friend of mine passed away in a car accident. And then just recently, a couple months ago, I went to a dance competition, and on the way to where the competition was, I passed the site of the accident. And it was really hard for me because, I don't know, I hadn't really been there since it happened, and and it just stirred up a lot of memories, you know. But then I got to the competition, and this modern dance team did this incredible dance to basically this girl telling the story of a car accident she'd been in, and they did this incredible dance to it. And I was sobbing through the whole thing, asking God, you know, like, why did this happen to my friend, even though, I mean, it was so long ago. Sometimes, you know, the pain, it's still there inside. And then after that, the next dance that went on was a group that did a dance to the song I Can Only Imagine, which you guys know is a contemporary Christian song, which was strange enough to be singing at a dance competition. But beyond that, that's the song we sung at her memorial service. So it was totally God speaking to me, saying like, she's with me now. She's in a better place. Don't be having pain for her anymore. And you know what? I haven't ever since. I drove past the place again a couple weeks later for another competition, and instead of getting upset and emotional, it was just this incredible feeling of peace. So I think that's probably my strongest spiritual experience with God.
That was really great.
These encounters with God can happen at random, often when you least expect it.
At other times, they happen as a result of you being open to God's presence through prayer and a spiritual life.
So is having a spiritual life important?
That's what we asked the teens on the street.
Do you think having a spiritual life is important?
Nah.
No way.
Nah.
Nah.
I think that's it, and depending on how you look at it, like, you might not have to go to, like, church or, like, whatever you go to, like, religiously, like, every week, but if you believe in it, just so you have something to hold on to, yeah, it's important.
Yeah, I guess so. It keeps you, you know, grounded and keeps you sane, I guess.
Like going to church and stuff? Yeah, you want to try to be a well-rounded person. I think so.
Yeah, if you go to church every weekend, you kind of can make better decisions because you're always thinking about what he'd think if he saw what you did.
I do. I think having a spiritual life helps you support through tough times and get you through the times that you really need something else. You need to believe there's something else out there.
So how important do you guys think it is to believe in something? To believe that there's something, someone else out there, like God?
Well, I think it's really important because, I mean, if you're going through a difficult time and there's no one around that you know, like your friends or family, you have no one to go to besides God. And you ask him, help me with this, or, I need to pass my science test. Can you give me the strength or something like that? And if you don't have anyone to lean on their shoulder, then I guess you would be a little bit less happy with yourself.
Yeah, I also think that not only, being able to just connect to God, but I also think having a faith and believing in something helps you connect to other people around you, because you're sharing some kind of a spiritual experience with them, and it's like a different level of being able to relate to them as people. So I think you're sharing something that way.
That's a really good point.
Some people come to the conclusion that it's impossible to know whether or not there's a God.
They reject revelation. In the absence of material proof, these people, called agnostics, persistently question the existence of God.
Atheists, on the other hand, definitely believe that there is no God.
They deny the existence of God.
Andrew was an atheist and then an agnostic before he came back to his Catholic faith.
Let's see what advice he has for others who question the existence of God.
Having a spiritual life is very important to me. It makes every day, I wake up every day feeling good about myself. I wake up every day thinking, it doesn't matter how early in the morning I wake up, I'll feel like that this day's a brand new day and that God has blessed it. So I definitely think that having a spiritual life will just enhance everything that you do to be closer to God, and it just makes you feel so much better about living.
What would you tell someone who doesn't believe there is a God?
I would tell them that it's fine if they don't believe there is a God, but there's going to come a moment in their life when they realize that there's something out there that they can't explain, but they need. And this is universal. I know this is universal, that there's something out there that even though you might have everything you want and you don't have God, you have nothing. There are things that people have that when they believe in God, they just have a special aura about them. You can feel it. You can feel their presence. You can feel that they're happy. You can feel that they just love to live life. And people who don't believe in God, they try to satisfy that need with other things. And it's okay, but it's going to run out. And you definitely will turn to God after a while. I guarantee that. Well, teens who don't know about God and want to learn more about Him can really connect through Him with prayer. There's many forms of prayer that you can use, and probably one of the best forms of prayer for teens is just sitting down and talking to God. God may not answer your prayer now, but He will answer your prayers. And it might not be in the way that you want it, but He knows best. And you have to put 100% of your belief in that, because He does know best. And it will work out in the end for you. You just have to trust in Him 100%.
Are you looking for ways to connect with God?
Spend some quiet time in natural settings.
Pay attention to the surroundings and to your internal reactions to what you see and hear.
Read the scriptures. They are the experience of an entire people who were called into relationship with the one God.
Ask God to help you find answers to your questions.
Pray for an increase in your faith or for the courage to open yourself up to a relationship with God.
Talk to lots of people about your questions. You'll be surprised at the number of people who have had personal experiences of God.
Have you ever questioned the existence of God or felt God's presence? We want to know.
Contact us through our website.
The address is realfaithtv.com.
Or you can call us at 609-406-7402.
And one last thought. We sense God's presence especially in love, care, acts of kindness, forgiveness, and selflessness.
We can love because first we have been loved.
We forgive because we have been forgiven.
Acts of compassion reveal the face of God.
Thanks for watching.
We'll see you next time on Real Faith TV.
God bless.